All right. Hello, everyone. Let me go ahead and pull up my presentation, and then we'll get started. So this is a little bit of a different platform. I know we've been on this platform for the last 2 months, but if anyone is new, you can still feel free to use the chat here, and we can still make it a nice discussion. So I'm going to just pull up my presentation, and we'll get started. Let me see. Share screen. Okay. If someone could just give me a thumbs up that we're working here and you can see the correct screen, that would be great. Perfect. Thank you. All right, so we'll just give it a couple of minutes for people to file in and then we'll get started. But like I said before, I'd love to make this a discussion today, as we usually do. That's my favorite part about doing these presentations. So feel free to use the chat and we can talk through some of the concepts that we're going to go through today. This is one of my favorite topics, so I'm excited to get into it. But we'll wait until like 12:03 and then we'll get it going. All right. Seems like we've got a couple more people filing in. Hopefully we can make it a full house today. Definitely one of my favorite topics, one of the things that I think is most applicable to a lot of people's lives and all the things that you see on social media about nutrition. So we'll get through some of these myths today and hopefully it's helpful for you guys. Just give it about one more minute until 12:03 and then we'll get started. And I apologize if I need to take a couple pauses today. I'm getting over a little cold, so I'll be drinking some water and hopefully we'll avoid a coughing fit today. So apologies in advance. All right, why don't we go ahead and get started and everybody else will file in. As we get going, the beginning is just a little bit of an intro anyway, so they won't miss anything super important. But today we're going to be going over nutrition myth busting. As I said before, this is one of my favorite topics. I think it's super applicable to what most of us experience with nutrition information. It's a very saturated world out there on social media, in the media in general. And something that I think a lot of my clients struggle with, a lot of the people in my life struggle with, just figuring out what is true, what we need to actually listen to, and help you kind of cut through the weeds a little bit. So we'll get into that today, but a little bit about On Point Nutrition before we dive into that. So we are an online nutrition counseling company. We help people improve their health and build better relationships with food through science-backed holistic approaches. And we also help ditch the diet culture mentality, which is a lot of what we'll be doing today. We help people not only with weight-related goals, but with condition management as well. So things like PCOS, diabetes, heart conditions, all those sorts of things, lots of GI conditions. So we kind of do it all. And primarily these topics that we're covering today are more so just overall health related. Some of them are a little bit more weight loss related, but either way, things that you're definitely hearing and seeing in the media consistently. And then a little bit about me. I'm a registered dietitian at On Point. I'm also the client experience manager, so I do a little bit of everything. But I help my clients become confident, happier versions of themselves who are more sufficient in their health goals and feel empowered to continue moving forward. So that's really the goal of what we do at On Point is we really try to help our clients establish healthy habits and feel more confident in their own nutrition knowledge. So that's what I'm going to be doing for you today. All right, let's get into the topics. So, some of the topics that we're going to cover include calories, gluten, food timing, organic versus conventional, and much more. So, these are a lot of the topics that I hear from my clients or questions that I get about nutrition. So, we will debunk some of those myths today and we'll do about 10 myths. So, it'll definitely be more than what you're seeing here. And as I mentioned before, if there's any comments, questions, anything that you want to chat about, please feel free to drop it in the chat here and we'll go over it as we go through everything. So, the first myth is that calories in and calories out is all that matters for weight loss. So, this is very a more weight specific myth here, but this is something that I hear a lot from clients, people in my everyday life, that calories are the number one thing that we need to be focusing on when it comes to weight loss. So, this is a myth for a couple of reasons, but there's just other factors to consider here. So, just calories in and calories out is not going to do it. We really need to think about food quality and nutrient density as well. The way that your body metabolizes things changes based on the quality of the food. And in order to see proper weight loss, we need to make sure that our body's able to metabolize and utilize these things efficiently. So, if your goal is to gain or lose weight, calories are an important piece of the puzzle, but the quality of the food that you eat really matters. So, there's a difference between filling your day with processed packaged foods that are within your calorie limits and filling your day with nourishing whole foods. So, your weight may be dependent on your calories to a certain extent, but we need to also think about overall health, and that depends on the quality of the foods that we eat. Nutrient density is also something that I talk about with my clients quite frequently, and that is just basically how many nutrients are in your food. So, examples are fruits, veggies, lean proteins, whole grains, healthy fats. These all have a very high nutrient density. And then packaged and processed food, including ultra processed food, which is very prevalent in the American diet, is low in nutrient density. So it's not really contributing anything positive to our diet. And all of this to say that it's not that you can never eat these foods and that your whole diet needs to be, perfect nutrient dense foods. We want to make sure we're just getting the right ratios of these things. I like to follow the 80-20 rule. But important nutrients that are in our food are vitamins, minerals, fiber, water, all of those sorts of things. So, those are the kinds of components that we're talking about when we reference nutrient density. So, calories in, calories out is important, but we also want to think about food quality and nutrient density when we're looking at weight specifically and your overall health. All right. Myth number two, snacking is bad. I hear this from a lot of my clients when we first start that, I've really tried to cut back on my snacking or I'm not, doing as many snacks in between my meals. And they think that snacking is a source of a problem. And I think that this probably comes back to basically myth number one, where calories in versus calories out is the most important thing. So more food is always a bad thing, which is definitely not the case. A lot of times I find that my clients that are having a hard time losing weight are actually not eating enough calories. And what can happen there is that just as your body, when it over consumes calories, is able to store that and can potentially cause weight gain. When you're under consuming calories, your body basically goes into protection mode. It doesn't want to starve, it doesn't want to not have enough energy to get through the day. So when it thinks that you're going into starvation mode, it's going to basically hold on to your fat stores for later use, which makes it more difficult for your body to reconcile that it's okay to lose weight at this time. So, snacking is definitely something that I work on with a lot of my clients. Not that you need to be doing it, but if you're not able to reach your targets within the meals throughout your day, then snacking can be actually really helpful. So, some of the points that we want to consider is considering your day as a whole. So, what does your day look like as a whole? Are you eating enough throughout the day? Are you skipping meals? Or are your meals really far apart where you're getting to the next meal and you're starving? Some people prefer small, frequent meals versus three large meals, and that's totally okay, especially for my clients with any sort of GI issues or consistent GI discomfort. Smaller, more frequent meals might be the thing that actually changes the game for you and makes your body function at a better rate, not cause any GI discomfort. So it really depends on the situation and what works best for you and your schedule. Which brings me to the third point, consider your schedule. Is it realistic for you to actually sit down and eat three large meals? If not, then snacking can be the thing that really helps you bridge the gap between those meals. And then when do you feel hungry? That's also important. Are you feeling hungry in between meals? If so, then it might be time to add in a snack, obviously, all within the scope of what you need in a day. And then considering the quality of your snacks there too. So you'll hear me say this multiple times throughout this presentation. Find what works for you. Your dietitian or nutritionist can also help you do that. So if you find that you're like, I don't know how much I should be eating throughout the day. I have no idea if my snacking is a good thing or a bad thing, or if it's, causing me to go over my needs throughout the day, then a dietitian or nutritionist can also help you with that. Um, but like I said before, whether you want to eat three large meals, no snacks in between, or like smaller, more frequent meals, including those snacks as some of those meals, that is totally up to you and what works for your body. So that's really the main gist of it for the snacking piece, is that we just need to consider your day as a whole. Um, so that is myth number two, snacking. You can drop in the chat if you've ever heard that one before, or if you are currently experimenting with snacking in between meals. I love to hear about your experiences too. All right, next. I combined this one, myths three and four, because they kind of go together. And I wanted to talk about them as a whole because they have similar points to them. So, myths three and four. Myth three is carbs make you gain weight. And then myth four is that fat makes you gain fat. So, as a whole, no single food group alone makes you gain or lose weight, or is an indicator of health. And the quality of the foods within each group matter. So this kind of comes back to myth one, where we were talking about quality and nutrient density. A carb is not just a carb. A fat is not just a fat. Different carbs do different things. Different fats do different things. But none of them alone will promote weight gain or weight loss. All foods in every food group play an important role in our health. So, no food should be totally off limits, and no food should be totally eliminated from your diet unless you're allergic to them or have some sort of food sensitivity. In that case, then we need to strip them. But basically, when it comes down to it, with carbs, they are our body's preferred source of energy for day to day activities and workouts. No carbs will result in low energy, brain fog, and our brains run best on carbs. So, the biggest thing for me is when I see all of these low carb diets out there and things that guarantee fast weight loss, you will lose weight quickly from carbs. But this is basically a result of water loss. So, carbs have a lot of fiber, they're needed for optimal digestion. And when you're not including them, then you're going to be missing out on a lot of these key components that we really need for your overall health and for your body's metabolism to keep running at an optimal rate. So, when you're seeing this quick fat loss from carbs, or this quick weight loss from carbs, don't mistake it for fat loss. It's really just water weight shedding off. So our bodies also need fat to absorb certain micronutrients. So without fat, you can become deficient in those nutrients. There are nutrients that are specifically fat soluble. So when you don't have enough fat in your diet, they're not able to be absorbed and utilized properly, which is a problem for a lot of reasons, but really comes down to your body's micronutrient profile and not being able to actually get the things that your body needs to function as efficiently. It's also important for energy and hormones. So, for all of these reasons, we want to make sure that we're getting optimal amounts of carbs and fat in our diet and consider quality as well. So, when we're talking about carbs, we want higher quality carbs like whole grains, starchy vegetables, those sorts of things. And then higher quality fats, which would be your unsaturated fats. And those are nuts and seeds, avocados, plant oils, all of those sorts of things. They're going to help immensely with cholesterol, and they're going to help with just regulating our body's systems. So, myth number 5, this is one that I hear a lot. This is one that maybe you've, come across and have questions about. So feel free to drop any questions you have in the chat. But gluten-free and vegan products are healthier. That is the myth. Um, I'm not saying that these products don't have health benefits or that none of these products are healthier, but the myth is that basically any gluten-free product and any vegan product is healthier than the alternative. I cannot say this enough that health claims do not mean that foods are healthy. We need to consider a lot of the other factors, which is nutrition labels, ingredients, all of that sort of stuff. So, reading labels can help you make your own determination if the food is healthy or not. And then we also have to consider the amount of processing. A lot of these foods that are gluten free or vegan take a lot of processing to get to the point where they are actually a purchasable, usable product. So we want to make sure that we're not subbing a, normal whole food for an ultra processed food just because it's gluten free or vegan. So I do want to stress though that if you need to avoid gluten for a celiac disease or a gluten intolerance, then you should absolutely be buying gluten-free products. Gluten is not the enemy unless you have a specific food sensitivity to it. So I'm always on the side of, don't avoid anything in particular unless it's absolutely necessary. Many high quality products contain gluten. A lot of whole grains and things of that sort can definitely be a high quality source of gluten there as well. And if you're vegan, you should buy vegan products. That's another thing too, is that if you are someone who either has a reason why they want to avoid meat products, or maybe it's cultural, then you should absolutely be buying vegan products. Or if you're someone who just likes to experiment with plant-based foods, that's totally fine. But we just want to make sure that we're veering towards the higher quality versions of that product. But if you're buying gluten-free Oreos and vegan Pop Tarts because you think that they're healthier than the non-vegan gluten-containing originals, you're mistaken. These contain just as much or potentially more sugar or fat because they actually need to make them taste good without some of those additives. So just a note there of, an ultra-processed food is an ultra-processed food at the end of the day, whether it's vegan or gluten-free or neither. So do an experiment, compare the two side by side and see what the differences are. And obviously make your own decisions based on what you have decided to do with your diet. And we got a chat here. Gluten free became such a fad, like the fat free or low carb diets. It feels like there's always something new. It's so true. And what's really nice about it is that for people who have celiac disease or gluten sensitivity, there is so much more access to these products now, which is amazing. And that's all I want for my friends and my clients who have any sort of gluten sensitivity, because I know they miss all of their great products. But it's definitely, when, like I said, when we're looking at gluten-free or vegan versions of products that don't necessarily need to be processed in that way, or for people who don't need that specialized diet, a lot of times it can be more expensive and a lot of times it can be more processed. So we just want to make sure that we're looking for the right products there. And it will continue to be like this, with fat free or low carb diets. I mean, that was for years what we were seeing with every single product out there. And now it's gluten free. And we'll see that, continue with any of the other fads that come out. We just want to make sure that they're for the right audience and the right products. All right. That's number 6. Excuse me, I just had to clear my throat really quick. So myth number 6 is that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Now, I will say that breakfast is my favorite meal of the day, and for that reason, it is the most important meal for me. But there's a lot of reasons why we talk about all of the other meals throughout the day too. No meal is more important than the next, and they all hold equal weight. We need to make sure that we're eating regularly throughout the day, regardless. And listening to your hunger cues is super important. So we do encourage that you eat within a few hours of waking up and continue to eat regularly throughout the day. But for some people, it might not be ideal for them to eat first thing when they open their eyes. They might, have a little bit of stomach acid in the morning or feel a little bit nauseous. And in that case, it's okay to wait an hour or so before you eat. or if you're someone who works out first thing in the morning and wants to work out and prefers to work out fasted, then you can always wait until after your workout. So there's a lot of reasons why we would put this off a little bit. What I don't want my clients doing is waiting until super late in the day to eat their first meal, sort of like a fasting situation, unless it's cultural, of course. But the reason why we don't want that to happen is because when you fast, um, unintentionally or intentionally, it can cause you to overeat at the next meal. So you'll get to the next meal, you'll be starving. Your body is going to want a lot of food and a lot of calories at one time. So it's going to be harder to regulate your appetite. Um, but listening to your body's hunger cues is really important. I mean, that's the biggest thing for me is that I am hungry the second I open my eyes in the morning. But I have a lot of clients who just aren't hungry, don't feel great in the morning, or they just want to wait a little bit for whatever reason, scheduling, all that kind of stuff. So that's also fine as well. So allow your hunger and preferences to determine what and how much you eat, but don't feel like you must eat a huge breakfast or should skip breakfast based on the things that you hear. Those pancakes look delicious also. Myth number 7, this is something that I hear so often from new clients, is that eating at night causes weight gain. And this is something that a lot of my clients jump right into when I first meet them is that, oh, I eat very late at night. This is something that I feel like is one of my biggest areas of opportunity. I will say this is very, very specific to the person. Timing alone does not determine weight loss, weight gain, weight maintenance. You have to consider your intake as a whole. And you also should consider, is this hunger or is this boredom? So that's another thing that I talk to my clients about is that the time you eat is not the sole predictor of how your body handles that food. So we need to consider two scenarios here. There's, someone who has a busy day away from home, in meetings, running around, maybe they're, carting their kids around, they've barely eaten all day and they're starving at 9 p.m. Or, they had their last meal at noon and they're just getting home and they're not able to sit down and eat dinner until, 9 o'clock, 9:30. You should eat. That should not be a situation where you're wondering whether you should eat or you should just go to bed hungry because it's late and you don't want to potentially cause any weight gain. Your body is going to be much more upset about not getting the fuel that it needs and the fuel that it needs to refuel after a day like that than it will be with eating at night. Now, if it's a normal day, you've eaten regular meals and snacks and you've hit all your food group goals, your, calories and macros are maxed out for the day. You're not really hungry, sitting down to watch TV and just want a snack. Something just sounds good at 9 p.m. That's a time when your body might be like, we've had too much for today. We're going to store this as fat. So we just need to consider the situation as a whole, and not that you can never have a snack in front of the TV at 9 p.m., but we want to make sure that that's something that we're planning for and carving into our day's worth of food. And also we can, consider quality in these moments as well. All right. Myth number 8. Oh, we just got a comment here. Is there something better or worse when it's 9 p.m.? Not necessarily. I'll go back to this so that we can kind of stay on the topic, but not necessarily. I would say that we want to consider quality overall. So, not that you need to eat a specific food group. It doesn't need to like be only protein or only carbs or only fat for it to be a valid, meal around that time or snack around that time. I think we just need to consider the day as a whole and quality of that snack. So, if you haven't had any fruit for the day, fruit might be a great snack for you at 9 p.m. Or if you missed out on some of your protein that day, maybe you do a little bit of Greek yogurt or something like that. If it's the scenario that I was talking about where you haven't really eaten all day, you've been running around, your body is like depleted, then we just really need to think about having a balanced meal, which in my book is typically protein, starch, and vegetables. So a nice, well-rounded plate, obviously some fat thrown in there with, cooking oils or whatever it might be. But we just want to think about the day as a whole and what you're needing out of that snack. And then obviously the quality of that product as well. So something ideally nutrient dense at any point throughout the day. But that also doesn't mean that, if you're eating nutrient dense snacks every night, that you can't randomly have a brownie or a cupcake or a cookie or something like that. It's just all about the balance at the end of the day. All right. So, myth number 8, organic is always best. I've heard this a lot. I've had questions about this a lot. Um, and basically, what it comes down to is that, again, health claims do not determine if a food is healthy. We have health claims here for a reason, but we want to make sure that we're doing our research and we have all the knowledge possible to be able to determine if this is a higher quality product. The biggest thing that I want to mention here is that organic can be beneficial in certain cases, but it can also be very pricey and it isn't always necessary. And I'm sure you all have noticed, just like I have noticed, that the price of groceries is insane these days. So wherever we can cut back and save a little bit, I always like to try to encourage my clients to do that. So we'll go over the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 on the next slide. I'll have a nice layout for you so you can screenshot it if you want to. Um, but you also have to consider your needs. Some of my clients, price is the most important thing. Some of my clients, convenience is the most important thing. And some of my clients have the means to be able to purchase organic. And in that case, go for it. But organic versus conventional does also not change calories, macronutrients, etc. It's basically just an indicator of what chemicals were used in the production. Um, so you can shop smarter by using the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15 list, which I'll go over in a minute. But the Dirty Dozen are basically produce items that have the most pesticide residue when pesticides are used. And then the Clean 15 has the least pesticide residue. So the Clean 15 is a little bit safer to buy conventional. And then the Dirty Dozen we want to, if we can, and we have access to and we can afford it, buy organic. So the lists change yearly. So make sure that you check back periodically. But this is the Dirty Dozen and Clean 15 list for this year. So if you want to take a screenshot, feel free to do so. Sorry if my head's hanging out in the corner there. But you can also Google this and be able to find the most recent list as well. But the Dirty Dozen basically includes for this year strawberries, spinach, dark leafy greens, so like collard greens, mustard greens, those sorts of things, peaches, pears, nectarines, apples, grapes, bell and hot peppers, cherries, blueberries, and green beans. So these are the ones that you're going to want to buy organic if you can. I don't think there's been a year that I've seen without strawberries on the list. That's one that doesn't really rotate out very often. So that seems to be one that tends to absorb a lot of these chemicals. And then the Clean 15, we're looking at avocados, corn, pineapples, onions, papaya, sweet peas, asparagus, honeydew, kiwi, cabbage, mushrooms, mangoes, sweet potatoes, watermelon, and carrots. You can see a lot of these things on the Clean 15 list also have some sort of like shell or skin. So pineapples, where you don't really, consume the outside, that's obviously getting, stripped off. And then honeydew, same thing. So a lot of these are just, protected by that natural shell. Let me know if I need to go back so you can screenshot this, but I'm going to move on to myth number 9. So, myth number 9 is that restrictive diets are best for weight loss. When I'm talking about restrictive diets, I'm talking about things that greatly cut calories, where, adults are eating less than 1,200 calories, or the keto diet, where we're cutting out carbohydrates. Keto, South Beach, Atkins, it's been rebranded several times throughout the years, but all in all, it's a low carb diet. So we're talking about things that cut out major food groups or greatly restrict calorie intake. So you will see short-term weight loss with these restrictive diets. It's just not sustainable. So they also have a negative impact on metabolism. So the studies that we're seeing of these long-term results of these restrictive diets, and typically when we're seeing people do these restrictive diets, they have done and tried multiple throughout their life. And it basically causes a negative impact on your metabolism, where it makes it more difficult for your body to actually lose and maintain a healthy weight in the long run. There's also potential for nutrient deficiencies. So, if you're cutting out carbs long term, you're not getting enough carbohydrates over time. You're missing a lot of these essential nutrients, missing a lot of the fiber that comes with them. Also, if you're just greatly restricting calories, that's just less opportunity for nutrients. So, less opportunity to be fulfilling the needs that your body has. And then consider sustainability and long term adherence. So, this is sort of what I'm talking about. If you know that you are not never going to eat a slice of pizza again, don't do a low carb diet, because the second that you eat it again, your body is just going to go back to where it was previously. We need to make sure that we're making a sustainable approach to weight loss and weight maintenance, something that you feel like you can do forever, which basically comes with small changes to your habits over time. So that is pretty much that, in terms of the restrictive diets. If anybody has any comments about that or questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. If you've ever tried a restrictive diet, please let me know which one. I'm always interested to hear about your experiences with them. We can kind of talk through some of the big ones if you have partake. So, myth 10, there is one best diet. So, we see people on the internet all the time saying, this is the best diet. It's worked for me. You need to try it. Or, this is the best, most successful way to see weight loss. Um, Basically, what it comes down to is that no perfect diet exists. Everyone's diet looks different, and it should. And sustainability is key, and prioritizing your health is the main priority. So, no matter how many restrictive diets you try, you will end up back to the drawing board looking for another option, something more sustainable. And this, and that's, why you have showed up to this presentation likely, is that you want to find something that's more sustainable. You want to find something that works for you and works for your lifestyle. I know it sounds like a unicorn and it sounds like something that doesn't actually exist, but from someone who's done it for themselves and has worked with so many clients to do it in their lifestyle, it definitely can happen. All it takes is, some work on your habits and your lifestyle, and the opportunity to be able to work through the specific barriers in your life and get a more personalized approach, which again, your dietitian or nutritionist can help you with that if you decide to work with one. But the main thing is that you want to find something balanced and sustainable that delivers results while also maintaining your relationship with food. Nobody wants to do anything long term that is going to make food the enemy, and that's certainly not what is going to be sustainable. So we always try to match our efforts with quality of life as well. So if you prioritize health first, the rest will also come. So I really try to stress this to my clients, is that anything that doesn't make you feel good or doesn't prioritize your overall health, like cutting out carbs, is not going to produce the results that you're looking for long term. You really need to focus on health first, and weight loss, if that's what you're looking for, or weight gain or weight maintenance, will come with it. So, any choices that you're making that better your health, so improved sleep, hydration, exercise, balanced food choices, all of the things, they will align with your weight loss, weight maintenance, weight gain goals. And then if you feel like you're stuck and you need a little bit of help and you need a little bit more of a personalized approach because you feel like you're just not doing the right things for your body, then that's where a dietitian or nutritionist can come in. All right, let's jump in the chat. What common nutrition topics are you curious about that I didn't go through today? Did I bust any nutrition myths that you believed coming into this presentation? Or how can or will you shift your approach based on this presentation? I'd love to hear your feedback or anything that you feel like you've seen consistently in the media, or any comments that you have in general. I'd love to chat about it. So feel free to jump into the chat. Let me know what you think. Anyone? I'll wait a couple more seconds and see if anyone wants to pop in, and then we'll move on. If I don't hear from everyone, I will assume that I have covered all the nutrition myths you could ever want to know about, and that I have done my job today. Oh, here's a comment. I'm always shocked when I hear about the fat and dairy. What in particular with fat and dairy? Like how much fat is in dairy, or like low fat versus regular products? Can you expand a little bit on that? I've gotten a lot of different questions about this, so I just want to make sure I'm on the right track with my answer. Always hearing you have to cut fat and dairy out. Yeah, definitely, another nutrition myth that I hear about a lot. The fat we already went over, but dairy specifically, again, comes back to like that vegan and gluten-free conversation. Unless you have some sort of sensitivity to dairy or lactose intolerance, then there's really no reason to cut it out. For people who are looking to lower cholesterol and are worried about that side of things, dairy does have saturated fat. So we want to make sure that we're doing some lower fat products that can help maybe not contribute as much to that saturated fat. Um, and there's also just specific dairy products that are lower in that as well. So it's just something to be conscious about if you need to be. If you don't, then enjoy your dairy products. They're great for, especially like yogurt and stuff like that, are great from the probiotic standpoint. So they're great for your digestive health if you don't have any sensitivities to them. So in my opinion, not the need, no need to cut those out. And I think on that note too is the like dairy replacement products. So oat milks, almond milks, all those kinds of things. They're a great option for people who can't, digest or have an issue digesting normal cow's milk. But if not, then they're kind of just more expensive alternatives to regular dairy products. So yeah, definitely just make the decision based on what's best for you. And we got another comment. I hear a lot of people still thinking dairy is bad for you. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's a reason why dairy has always been like given to kids for strong bones and all those things. I mean, we grew up thinking that that was a good thing, and I think in the last couple of years with like the plant forward movement, it's gotten a bad rap, but definitely not. And unfortunately, a lot of plant milks and plant-based products from like dairy side of things are actually really rough on our environment. So, the emissions coming from like the um, from almond production and like making all of these different almond based products is a lot worse for the environment typically than some of these milk products. So it's interesting. It kind of comes from both angles. But yeah, definitely just do what's best for you. Um, and then there's also a really cool machine if you are someone who prefers a nut milk or doesn't want to necessarily contribute to the mass production. It's called the Nutter machine. It's NUTR, and you can make your own nut milks from that as well, which is really cool. Anything else that people want to chat through? Happy to help with any of your common nutrition myths. No? All right, I'm going to move on. And then if you have anything else that you want to chat about, drop it in and I will circle back. But basically, my last slide here is let's work together. So, as I mentioned during my presentation several times today, if you feel like you need a more personalized approach and you have tried just eating a balanced diet and it's not really working for you, then you might need the help of a registered dietitian or a nutritionist to just help personalize things for you a little bit more or get a second set of eyes to really figure out where things might be going wrong for you. So we have several different options. We can do one-on-one coaching, which is basically our programs. You can meet up to 2 times a week with your personal dietitian for instant feedback, action plans, goal check-ins, really to help you with any of the current struggles. And then you'd also gain access to our food logging app, resource database, and unlimited messaging with your dietitian. So it's really a partnership. You're working together with them, and they're really helping you reach your goals week over week. And we have several different call frequencies. So once every 3 weeks, once a week, twice a week. So really something for everybody. We also have our one-time session. So this is for a one-time session with a dietitian to review your health goals, nutrition-related questions, unique challenges. So for someone who feels like they just need that one session to really debunk some of their nutrition questions or get those personalized recommendations, really figure out what it should look like for them, you can feel free to do that through a one-time session. And then we also have self-guided materials. So we have meal plans, recipe books for all different kinds of nutrition related conditions, for weight loss, for weight gain, for weight maintenance. And we have just tons of different online courses as well. So if you wanted to sort of work through modules on your own instead of working one on one with the dietitian, that is also an option. I will send out follow-up materials after this presentation so that you have access to work with our team if you want to. And then we got another comment here. Do you have any thoughts on different gums and things that are included in dairy milk alternatives? I hear a lot about those being bad. So those are basically, if we're talking about like xanthan gum and binders in nut milks, they are basically exactly what I said, a binder. And they're a common food additive. So, not necessarily just in dairy milk alternatives, they're in a lot of products. So, make sure you're reading the nutrition labels. The only thing research wise that I know to be true, we don't really have enough research on these specific products to be able to say anything about it yet. But what I do know is that these gums and binders can be really rough for people sometimes with GI conditions. So, anyone who has any sort of like IBS, diverticulitis, Crohn's, colitis, anything like that, you want to be really careful with these products, primarily with these gums and binders, because they can potentially just cause issues and make your symptoms worse. So, not everyone of my clients who has a GI issue struggles with this, but some of my clients have found that these are a common trigger for them. So, I would definitely look out for them and make sure. But also, the more ingredients on a nutrition label that you can pronounce and that you know what they are, the better. So, anytime you're looking for a product, just look for something with the least amount of additives. It's always going to put you in a better position. So, all right. Any questions? Anything I can answer for right now after our presentation today? This one was really fun. I really enjoyed this one, and I'm looking forward to hearing some more nutrition myths from you guys. And if you have any questions, anything that you think of after the presentation, you can always respond to my email that I send out and just ask me anything you want, or make comments, or just leave some feedback. I'd love to hear about it. And then, of course, like I said, I'll include. All the materials from today's presentation. You can watch the recording, and then I'll also include information on where to um, find our team if you're wanting to work with us. We do have plenty of options for programs, and you can always sign up for a free consultation to just learn more about what we do. And we also do accept insurance. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'll stick around for another minute or so in case there's any chats that come through, any questions that you have. But I really enjoyed this one, and I'm looking forward to our presentation next month. Not sure what the topic will be, but I know it'll be fun. You're welcome. Thank you for coming. I'll hang out for a couple more minutes just for some questions. I'm very proud of myself for making it through without a cough attack today as well. It was hit or miss. Definitely could have gone south. All right, it seems like everybody is good to go. So I'm going to close out, but look out for that follow-up email, and I will see you all next month. You're welcome.